I can't believe he actually did it. Welcome back to another sponsored video on the channel. This is something some of my super fans like to do when they catch me on stream. This is not necessary. Nobody ever needs to pay me to make a video. I've got plenty of my own ideas, and I am happy to make those videos on my own accord. But if a viewer really likes my channel, really likes supporting me financially, and really likes making me suffer with the Frostbite Sniper, then this is what you get. So we are going to be running kind of two loadouts, I'll explain in a second, and two different perk options. Zaku or M Falcon sponsored this video, and he wanted me to run the Frostbite because it comes out during the Frost Knight season. I am recording this a couple of hours before that season starts, so we get to play with a fire mission. I am going to be running a damage loadout. He's going to be running Zenith in the lead. Sub-Zero Zenith is a perfectly excellent commander. I considered it heavily as my own, and it would be on theme for this weapon to be freezing targets. That makes sense, right? You're running the Frosty Sniper, you're hiding the bushes, Zenith looks the part, and I'm pretty sure his artwork is even holding the Frostbite. So Zaku is going to be running Zenith, critting with his sniper, doing that water affliction damage, and I will be targeting those frozen targets with Rabbit Raider Jonesy in the lead, critting super hard. If you haven't noticed by now, this is basically a bow loadout because snipers and bows are the same thing. If you guys want to see my best bow loadouts video, link down below. It's actually a good guide for all snipers. The only thing that you change is Stoneheart Pharah's nowhere to be seen. That's literally it. I'm running Saurian Might because my focus will be single target damage. I strongly considered Wukong just for the explosion damage, but I don't expect to be getting 6 enemy kills with this. I believe this will be a video where I showcase a variety. You know, the Xenon Bow just got nerfed. That projectile size just shrunk to be super tiny. And I think a melee with explosive damage and support would be really strong, or a rocket launcher and support might be strong. But that leads me to the caveat in today's recording. That is, because this is the last day of the season, scheduling is difficult, and we can't always record on the perfect days. We are recording, oh, my screen is covering it, in a smokescreen mission. That is not the end of a ranged weapon, by the way. I typically do not recommend running a ranged weapon primary, nor would I recommend the Frostbite primary, but that does mean that when an enemy is standing inside of a smoke screen, I should switch off to a sidearm. So one of the things I'm lightly considering is running perhaps a Stormblade as my side weapon. I am running wafers. I haven't explained the build fully. I did link the video down below, but that is something in here. So we are going to be able to activate Toy Rockin' Out on command. So if we run a melee and support, that could be something that we could activate on command. So yeah, let's hop in game and see how well the Frostbite does, both with normal perks and double crit damage. Look at us with our Frostbite snipers. I got the big flake wrap, and he's got... This is weird. So the coloring for the water element is just cut off halfway. That's really strange, but honestly, that first shot critting, that's kind of okay. I mean, crowd clearing suffers. Like I said, smokescreen will be a limiting factor, but anything that walks outside of that cloud is fair game. So smokescreen does reduce ranged weapon damage by 75%, but if they're not standing in the smokescreen, it's no big deal. That's why I said a support with a launcher would be somewhat limited, because as soon as it kills one enemy, everything turns into that, basically invincible. As soon as they walk out, the sniper can take care of it, so that's nice. But honestly, this is doing better than I expected. I thought this would be a whole video kind of crapping on this weapon, but at least on a single target basis, it's pretty good. But something that can work with crowds would be highly effective. But even like no scoping into the crowd, I'm fairly impressed with this. What does a crit look like if I have the double crit damage copy out? Okay, that did not crit, but maybe we'll get luckier. All right, so here's a good example of what I was talking about. So you eat the wafer, focus on the single target like the Smasher. I asked if Zaku wants to freeze it, but it looks like killing it is just as well. And then once we have groups of enemies, that's where you can switch off to a melee. And this is less of a critique of like the Frostbite and more of like a general suggestion for Fortnite Save the World, because like I said, the Xenon Bow got nerfed. A lot of people don't hold it in very high regard, so it's recommended nowadays to have a situation like this where you have a single target weapon that excels in destroying a single target, and the Frostbite counts for that, by the way. A lot of times my critique when it comes to snipers isn't that they're extremely weak and borderline unusable, it's the fact that they have little to no crowd clearing capabilities. So you can pop a wafer and use your nice scoped range weapon to 2 or 3 shot a high level target. Maybe you can take out a shielder, maybe snipe it around your teammate. You can focus on that nurse and take her out. Honestly though, the Stormblade's kind of a terrible example because this weapon is insane regardless. But yeah, it actually is a really nice thing to have a single target weapon that can take out those big targets and then crowd clearing on the side. So that's just my general advice. All right, one more example of exactly what I'm talking about. So you pop a wafer, use your high single target damage weapon, and just delete the taker or smasher or blaster, whatever the mist monster is in front of you. And then sidearm could be the Stormblade, could be a rocket launcher. This is something I did for years. Back before I even made videos, my main weapon loadout was like the Silent Spectre. Baron didn't exist, so I'd have like a launcher as a sidearm, and then I would have some high single target weapon. So I always really favored the Spyglass. I really like that weapon for taking out single targets. Nowadays, things are a little more complicated once you get shielders in here, and frankly, weapons like the Stormblade become very strong. So without a mist monster in play, it's hard to showcase this weapon to full effectiveness, but you kind of get the idea. So let's clean up this encampment, maybe bully a smasher or two, and ultimately get the defense started. I switched to my double crit damage copy, and I suspect this is going to be, yeah, a lot of damage. It went down pretty quickly. Oh, stream chat's having fun.
Wants you or your intelligent assistant to
So
tell a
loud.
joke or ask a trivia
I'm sorry,
question.
YouTube viewers, but if you guys ever watch these recordings live on stream, you get to do fun stuff like that. So check me out. Twitch link down below. I'm going to clean up these enemies and get the defense trapped. All right, so here's the plan for this defense and the mission. The Frostbite is a ranged weapon with a scope that excels in single target damage. It will suffer in crowds and versus smoke screens. So the situation that we have here is where we've got enemies coming from the north, northeast, and west. Hero will get it back in the game soon, I'm sure. We'll let her back in as soon as she can join. But what I want to set up is a defense where when the enemies get to the defense finally, they'll be completely taken care of by the traps. And then I want to be able to pick off the smashers at a distance. Zaku, running the Zenith loadout, can go ahead and use a Frostbite to freeze the smashers. I will focus on those frozen targets and finish them off. And then our teammates that are not AFK should hopefully be helping. And once Hero gets back, she is running Boom Base, which should be buffing our damage by a little bit. It's like 15%, and then I think the crit rating goes up by 12. So as soon as she figures out how to get her game to cooperate, we should be able to start on that front. But I'm going to be building out of metal here, and then this is why I always mention where the enemies are coming from. So it looks like they'll be running directly up this west side, and I think metal is just, I'm maxed on that right now, so it doesn't really matter. Can always get more of that, honestly, about as easy as brick. Like, even though metal is more valuable, depending on the zones you're running, it's pretty easy to take care of. So walling all of this off forces everything down this tube, and I don't want to spam ceiling traps. What I really want to do is be able to take care of these enemies once they get close. So I'm going to have floor freeze, tar pit. We can do a couple of, there we go, just have the wall dars lining up this side here. And then I will have some ceiling traps. Thank you, Good to Find, for the tier 1. Like I said, I record these on stream, Twitch link down below. What I can actually do, so I said I don't want to spam ceiling traps, but if we go 3 tiles high, these will be high enough so that we can stand above the base. Yeah, and not have to worry about it. That was a complete misclick. I pressed T instead of E for my ceiling, and then we can just sort of defend out against these directions. Spawns will likely rotate at some point, but I'm not terribly worried about it. And one of the reasons I recommend pre-placing your ceilings like this is because you could just jump up and do that. Now, you can't exactly share resources anymore, so these are my tire traps, and I need to be sure that I'm not completely wasting them, but floor freeze and tar pits are perfect. That will stop the enemies in their tracks, give the traps plenty of time to activate, and this alone should be enough. I'm going to put the wall darts just like so, and that won't cover the entire thing perfectly, but it should help out a lot, and I think this alone should be enough of a defense. The thing that I want to make sure that we have is something to stand on, so I'm going to connect that. Oh, that was terrible. All right, we're going to do it like this, do that, hop up here, and I think this can just be edited. We're not putting a ceiling trap here because I plan to defend this manually, and I'm hoping to stand about up here. That's the idea. We have something we can connect to on this opposite side. And so long as there's not a ceiling trap here, I could even get creative with it. This isn't necessarily 100% recommended, but this is a fun way to defend the objective if you want to make sure you have complete coverage. And while this is a wonky setup, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to grab this blue glow and get the mission started. Can we do this one together? What if I didn't make a cut right now? Look at that. I need a chest. And this is something I do every mission, by the way. I always talk about farming in this game, like killing glowing animals, recycling loot as you go. I just recycled a vacuum tube bow and a xenon bow that I got from glowing animals today, and that alone has given me more than 30 mechanical parts, which is kind of awesome, especially since Zaku wanted me to showcase crit rating, crit damage, and double crit damage with this weapon. So I appreciate him sponsoring the video, but that doesn't help me with my efficient parts. So here's the plan. Like I said, ignoring normal enemies and focusing on big targets like this. I mean, with that precision scope, you can just cut right through. Okay, this is a skill issue right now, but cutting right through that Riot Husky is really, really effective. And I'm hoping once the enemies get closer to the fence that the traps can help activate Battle Beat, and that is pretty much what's happening. So this is the idea. Your goal is, as a sniper, focusing on large targets far away. And that damage is actually really decent. I don't know exactly what the big number was, but that's 734,000. And so long as they're not in a smoke screen, this is doing a great job. And it's not like sniper ammo is extremely expensive. I'm just using medium ammo here, so I can focus on all the throwing thoughts, anything with a ranged projectile, and the damage on a smasher is not bad. I am not even eating a wafer right now. I am being super lazy, and 700k is not a ton, I'll admit. Smashers do have about 4.5 million health at this range, so I want to eat a wafer and focus on them next. But you can see floor freeze, tar pits, teammates that aren't AFK do a really good job once the enemies get up close. But right now, so far, I'm fairly impressed. What's a big crit? Let me see how big of a number we're getting. That's over 1 million, that's over 1 million, and if he's frozen with a teammate, that's awesome. I love the theming of Zach is over here freezing the big targets so that I can focus on them. This is an example of when things get a little out of hand, but you can see the trap's doing a good job. So you got teammate freezing the smasher in place, tar pits and smoke screen. I'm sorry, tar pits and floor freeze doing a great job. Inside of that smoke screen though, I can't really affect it. And that's one of the struggles. Like I said, scheduling was really difficult. It was hard to get both of us together on a day when I'm not away from home. Like, I actually went on a very short vacation prior to recording this, and it made it so that recording in a fire mission was difficult. But I don't think the smoke screen is holding us back much at all. This is a surprisingly good showcase. I am like actually excited right now. I don't know if you can hear the nervousness of my voice. I thought that Frostbite would be complete garbage, but if you work with it, I mean, this guy's in a smoke screen, I think, or I'm not critting. I'm not 100% sure. I think the smoke screen went away. This is not bad, as long as you play your role. I think I have always written this weapon off as complete garbage because, like, obviously, if you can't crowd clear and just run around to destroy everything without thinking, it's a bad weapon. But, like, clearly not. I am not even eating my wafers, and enemies are dying. Like, I should maybe pop a wafer and watch the damage go up. And again, it's not an expensive weapon. It's not like I'm burning energy cells or rocket ammo here. If I need to focus on something far away, I absolutely can. So we can eat the wafer, double crit damage. Not bad. 700k, I mean, it's not a lot. It's not a lot, but it is a semi-auto, so the fire rate makes up for it completely. And I feel like I'm singing a very different tune, and that just speaks to playstyle, because I recently covered the one-shot and the Dragonfly. Yeah, Dragonfly on the channel. They were not good. Link to those videos down below. Did Zeku fund those too? I hate forgetting who sponsored a video, but sometimes the name does escape me after time has passed. But like, either way, those were funded videos as well, and I wrote them off as completely garbage because they kind of were. But it goes to show that if you think about the way you're playing in advance, you can have a much different experience with almost the exact same weapon. All right, so correction, it was Maple that funded those videos. I had to double check it because I felt bad. Zach had mentioned it was someone else. Thank you again to him. And I also wanted to come back here because the mission did rotate spawns as expected. So north and northeast is the same, but south is completely undefended. My suggestion for getting rid of a lot of builds very quickly is either the Obliterator if you're on a budget, or, okay, actually, I do want a little bit of metal. I'm not even using wafers. I'm at 35. Could we just... We're 38, we're good. All right. So if you want to clear stuff quickly, I like using the cannonade. If you have an ability, as we're seeing here, like lefty and righty, that can go a very long way. I do not. I have a war cry, which can kind of help, but a minigun also does a great job. Cannonade's still kind of expensive. That's why I say Obliterator is probably the cheapest. Some people will use the deatomizer, and it is objectively effective at... Thank you so much for the tier 1. Hang on, that's a friend of mine that has never bought a subscription to my channel ever. In fact, he has been gifted subscriptions so many times that he's been subbed to the channel for over a year and a half off of his own dime. So I don't know what inspired this generosity, but thank you, Wolfen. So what I'm saying is, I think the candidate is a better pick. Deatomizer is extremely expensive to be burning energy cells on that, and he said, whoops. So as on the day that I'm recording this, there is a deal where people could purchase subscriptions on Twitch or gift subscriptions, I think, and that'll unlock Discord Nitro if you've never owned it before. Kind of a crazy bonus and irrelevant to this video, but kind of a neat thing that's going on. Thank you for prepping. That's exactly what I was hoping would happen. Yes, just so that I can come in here. And I honestly think this is overkill. 6 tire traps is more than we need here. I don't think that's necessary at all, but I can afford it, and I'm willing to farm if I'm, you know, mistaken that was a bad idea. So we're going to do double wall darts on either side. I could play with this death pit here and put in some wall launchers, but I'm not really worried about that. I think this is already overkill and should totally handle it. So I'm going to hop in here and get this defense started. I did get some positive feedback in my comment section from you guys who do enjoy these trapping sections, and I'm glad to show it off because, especially since you can't drop items between people anymore, it is really important to me that people play efficiently, myself included. I can't just say like, hey, people in chat, do you guys want to watch me farm for an hour, or, you know, because usually the ore happens and then I don't have to go and farm. I don't mind farming, by the way. It's just that the audience is like kind of who's deciding there. Like, hey, I will hop in a forest for an hour if you guys want. Or does anybody have any carved twine? And there's always some audience member who's farmed a lot more than I have. Maybe they just have some extra or whatever. Some kid dropped them a bunch of traps and they recycled it. You never know where people get their items. I'm well aware that people find ways to get items that are less than legitimate. I don't encourage that or even ask for it, but people do things. Is this going to be able to work over here, shooting through the wall like this? Because that smasher just completely glitched through. What's the damage if I'm not using a wafer? I mean, decent, right? Like, it's not good. There are lots of more effective weapons to take care of smashers. That's like I was saying with the, you know, Dragonfly is bad, but Frostbite's good beast. Which is it? Honestly, they're both pretty bad. I'm not immune to the sight in front of me that, like, especially versus smokescreen, this is a terrible representation. The weapon has some severe limiting factors. But, like I'm saying, if you play to that, if you're aware that you can't just eliminate crowds all at once and that you will be sitting back in your defense, playing the role of a sniper, that's probably the intended use case for these weapons, and their single target damage plus long range precision is a pretty decent combo. You can see me picking off targets with relative ease. Even a Riot Husky at this distance, if your accuracy is sufficient, is no real threat. Like, that's actually, that's all right. You know, 700k damage, single target from this distance, not the best, not the worst thing in the world. So what kind of mini? Oh, okay, it's nature. All right, well. Nature mini boss isn't going to be very nice versus our weapon that is water, but what you can do is pull out the pot shot. This is the fire copy. I always love doing that, by the way, because I pull out the technically ideal weapon, and then my teammates have basically killed it while I was fumbling around. And it speaks to my video on the best weapons to kill mini bosses. Link to that down below. My top suggestion was no specific weapon at all. My number one thing was like, hey, if you've got a loadout buffing a certain weapon, just use that. If you're running a melee build, use that melee. If you're running an AR build, use whatever your primary was. You pop a wafer, toy rocking out, or whatever else you've got going on, proper perk setups of the weapon, and, you know, crack shot or something like that. Whatever you've got going on will probably be sufficient. Especially if you have a team that's not AFK, it'll be fine. And this is exactly my point. Smashers, that is not the fastest kill I've ever seen. That is not the most efficient weapon to take out a smasher. But I've had a lot of people in my comments, especially recently, telling me that, hey, all the weapons in Save the World are garbage, now that the Xenobow's nerfed. I'm like, no, they're not. Like, with the right playstyle, the right attitude, the right build, and I understand teammate coordination is hard to find on the internet. I know I'm a YouTuber, and people want to help me out, that's different. But you can message people on Discord, you can make friends and be nice to people, and hopefully get some teammate coordination. But even without teammates helping you, if you set up some decent traps, and you sit back like I am, and your teammates are just doing whatever they want to do, you can make any weapon work. That's really the final point that I wanted to make, and why I'm really glad that Zaku decided to sponsor this video, because I have other ideas than the Frostbite as far as what I was going to talk about on my channel. But the fact that this came up gives me a really sobering point that, like, even a weapon I would proudly rank within the global tier list of every weapon in the game compared against each other, I would say this is like a D tier weapon. I'm not unaware of that, and I still stand by that kind of rating. It is a single target weapon damage, single target damage weapon, which is decent enough, but it's not nearly as strong as some of the other options in this game. So why am I saying it's kind of good? But, well, the point I've made before is that some of the worst weapons in the game, on average, are usually like only about 20% worse than some of the best weapons. So, yeah, are there weapons that can pull off a million damage, a million damage, a million damage, a million damage, just like that? Sure. But 800k damage? Not that far below it. And as you can see, perfectly viable if you set it up right. So thank you again, Zaku, for making this video possible. Thank you guys for watching. And seriously, I appreciate these kind of moments because I was not about to give the Frostbite a second chance. And it hasn't really changed my opinion. This is more of a philosophical adjustment rather than like the weapon being stronger than I ever thought. It did do a better job than I expected, but a water-only sniper that's locked to sitting back at your defense is Tricky to recommend, but it was a fun thing nonetheless. If you guys enjoyed this, leave a like, comment down below what you thought. Subscribe if you're new. Channel members get early access to my scheduled videos, so if you ever want to take part in that, you can join with the link down below. And that's it. I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your breakfast. I got a recommend video here if you're not done eating, and the rest of your day otherwise. Goodbye.